The following presentation contains content that will offend the virtue signaling of both the left and the right, and may be a very fake threat to the fake news of our fake democracy. Viewer discretion is advised.
Paradigm Shift.
An educational comedy.
It's not a cause, not a movement.
It's not a social group you can slap a label onto.
It's an idea. It's an intention.
It's an intuition.
A mindset in which reality can be explored.
It's a genuine expression,
Discernment.
critical thinking, and imagination.
To look inward upon ourselves.
To better understand the external world around us.
And yes,
Few egos are bound to be bruised.
With our silly, zany, politically incorrect,
George Carlin built style of going about things.
real and raw honesty.
which invites you to be
To the fullest.
The fires in Australia are showing no sign of letting up and are said to be going to get worse. So far, they've burnt down most of New South Wales, most of Victoria, huge fires in South Australia, and they have murdered over 1 billion of our beautiful little animals, 30,000 koalas on Kangaroo Island alone. Folks, the boys are doing this, and you're about to see how and why they're doing it, and you can go peacefully, but you better go quickly, because we'll do it any way we can, and we'll release the guns if we have to. But either way you look at it, Scott Morrison and you parasites in Canberra, the people are coming. You're fucked.
The size and the scope and the range of the Australian fires continues. They're talking about evacuating 1.5 million people now as they put in the agenda for their smart cities and to eliminate the people, but not just the people, folks. Look at this. They're going to kill over thousands of camels because of their flatulence, because they drink too much water, because allegedly Australia's in a drought, a climate change drought, which anything but, which we're going to prove. But folks, if you can't get concerned about the loss of the people while the Australian Open is still going on and everything's fine, how about the animals that are being literally torched? This poor little animal tried to get through a fence that had become electrified due to the directed energy weapons and was fried. The animals and the loss of life is incredible, and it's not just above the people, but it's the weather manipulation that is beyond shadow of a doubt is occurring now.
I just want to take another look at these so-called harmless trails of condensed water vapor as they innocently hang in the air that we all have to breathe. And they hang there for hours and hours and hours, after which they're reported to make people sick, block the sun for days, and literally modify the weather. But if you think I'm just a conspiratorial anti-government kook, maybe you'll believe in the existence of chemtrails, or as former CIA Director and Council on Foreign Relations puppet John Brennan likes to call, stratospheric aerosol injection.
Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as geoengineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection, or SAI, a method of seeding the stratosphere with particles that can help reflect the sun's heat in much the same way that volcanic eruptions do. An SAI program could limit global temperature increases, reducing some risks associated with higher temperatures and providing the world economy additional time to transition from fossil fuel.
The people are coming. You're fucked.
Watch these
They're
videos.
very hot here. Now I want you to see these fires over here, all the microwave activity happening in here, popcorn cloud, all that microwaves from the satellites, I'm thinking. I'm sure if I'm doing that wrong, someone will tell me. Here you go, look at all those waves. Not good, driving that weather away from the fires. Now you look here at this weather here, radio waves right in here. Look at them. Look at those waves. Driving that that weather, that rain and everything away from the fires. Okay, now look over here. More microwaves. Look at that, look at that, look at that. Look at all those waves. Okay, not natural. And look how it's driving that cloud away. Invisible popcorn cloud, that's what they call it. Okay, now what I wanted to show you as well is over here in this system here. Now if you look at the loop, it shows a rectangle at the eye. Okay, they don't do rectangles. Okay, look at this. Squares, rectangles, doesn't happen in nature. Okay, it's round normally. But I'm watching to see what this area is going to do in the future. I'm not too sure. I'm sure other people that are a bit more experienced in this type of thing will know better than me. But I'm trying to show you what I'm observing on the satellite live from everything that you can see.
And here's from the excellent work of Mike Morales, Weather Modification Advisory Committee, telling you they're modifying the weather, showing you, proving that the weather is being manipulated. The cold hard facts are that they could be putting out these fires at will with their many, many rain-making devices available to them, yet they're causing the drought, they're causing the water shortages, and they're torching and burning the people out and killing the wildlife. This is the Luciferian set the world on fire Jesuit agenda in action.
The people are coming. You're fucked.
As you and I can see with our own eyes, this isn't something they're thinking about doing. This is something they do every single day. And they've been doing it for years. They seed clouds with a concoction of chemicals like silver iodide, potassium iodide, and dry ice, which is solid carbon dioxide. They also use liquid propane and other chemicals in order to manipulate the weather. This isn't conspiracy theory, this is actual fact. It's classic geoengineering. And guys, this technology is not new. The footage you're looking at is from a 1923 newsreel where the Air Service is dropping a chemical curtain to obscure and protect approaching bombing planes. Supposedly, they use this kind of technology in Normandy to hide approaching boats. The point is, what your eyes are seeing here are not harmless water vapor contrails. A contrail quickly and easily dissipates. Chemtrails hang around for a long, long time. You're seeing chemtrails here being dumped into the atmosphere for a particular reason. And regardless of the reason, this is detrimental to your health. The only thing that should be going into your lungs is clean, fresh air. Consider this news report.
This next story is so unbelievable, we didn't think it could possibly be true. But after receiving thousands of records and declassified reports from the Army, it's confirmed that during the Cold War, the United States military conducted secret tests on unsuspecting people in the city of St. Louis. A local sociologist will make her findings public tomorrow, but she spoke first to the I-Team's Lisa Zigman.
Lisa Martino-Taylor's life work has been to uncover details of the Army's ultra-secret military experiments carried out in St. Louis and other cities during the 1950s and 60s.
This study was secretive for a reason. They didn't have volunteers stepping up and saying, yeah, I'll breathe zinc cadmium sulfide with radioactive particles.
These Army archive pictures show how the tests were done in Corpus Christi, Texas in the 1960s. In Texas, planes were used to drop the chemical, but in St. Louis, the Army placed chemical sprayers on buildings and station wagons. City officials were kept in the dark about the tests. The Cold War cover story was that the Army was testing smoke screens to protect cities from a Russian attack. The truth, according to Martino-Taylor, was much more sinister.
It's pretty shocking. The level of duplicity and secrecy, clearly they went to great lengths to deceive people.
By making hundreds of Freedom of Information Act requests, she uncovered once classified documents that confirmed the spraying of zinc cadmium sulfide.
The greatest concentration of this compound was sprayed near the Pruitt-Igoe housing complex just south of downtown St. Louis. It was home to 10,000 low-income people, and an estimated 70% were under the age of 12.
Martino-Taylor claims they all unknowingly inhaled this compound morning, noon, and night so the government could measure its effects on their lungs.
So this was in violation of all medical ethics, all international codes, and the military's own policy at that time.
In 1994, then Congressman Richard Gephardt asked the Army to open its records and explain the St. Louis testing.
We want to make very sure that nothing went on that would harm anyone and that all the facts are out on the table.
Documents released in the 90s show the Army placed sprayers on this former Knights of Columbus building on Lindell and in Forest Park. The Army always insisted the chemical compound was safe. Martino Taylor believes documents prove otherwise.
There's a lot of evidence that indicates that people in St. Louis, in the city, particularly in minority communities, were subjected to military tests that was connected to a larger radiological weapons development and testing project.
For the first time, she links the St. Louis testing to a company called U.S. Radium, a company notorious for lawsuits involving radioactive contamination of its workers.
United States Radium had this reputation where they had been found legally liable decades prior for producing a radioactive powdered paint that killed many young women who painted fluorescent watch dials.
While the Army admits it added a fluorescent substance to the zinc-cadmium compound, details of whether it was radioactive remain secret. Documents uncovered to date indicate the Army never conducted follow-up studies to see whether the compound caused long-term health issues. In 1972, after years of crime, poverty, and decline, the government destroyed the Pruitt-Igoe housing complex.
The people are coming. You're fucked.
Okay, well this is just proof so Katerina could show the folks back home that it's not just a conspiracy theory. Chemtrails! Yay! Look at that. Now there's a thin little line and it's spreading out. And you've got this artificial overcast BS. There's more chemtrail lines.
She is dangerous. All right, watch where you're going. Don't run nobody over.
And Katerina's never seen it in person before until now. Oh, look at that. Tic-tac-toe in the sky, my friends. Tic-tac-toe in the sky. Look at that chemtrail frickin' sunset there. Oh boy. Wow, this is some good shots of them. So you see, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's not just a bunch of crap that kooky wackos who have been smoking too much pot and taking LSD have just imagined out of nowhere when they were imagining they were getting the anal probe up their butts. This stuff actually happens. And Katerina's seeing it with her own eyes, aren't you? Yep, and there's the kite.
Keep your head forward and watch where you're going. Don't be turning your head back.
Yeah, no shit. Hey Dad, we're getting some good chemtrail shots. Little souvenir for Katerina to show people back home. Yep, this crap does happen. It's not conspiracy theory. Look at how that's widening out. That just blankets like... Yeah. Look at how that blankets. It's just this blanket. Contrails my a-hole.
Watch it. Get back over here so you don't get Steve.
Oh, no! I'm sorry, but ice particles that are created from the collision of hot and cold do not do that. They do not start thin and widen and widen and widen and then lower and lower and lower. But I'll tell you one thing that does do that. It's called aerosol. She sees. Yep, there's the plane, there's the kite. The plane, not the kite. You know, that's what we thought. The Illuminati are so naughty. Now, Katerina's gonna ride my bike.
Huh? Don't you side saddle it like I do? What do you mean?
She's short.
I'm short. Doesn't matter. You ride on the pedal and lift yourself up and flip your leg over. Yeah, you never done that? Oh my God, I'll have to show you how to do that.
Here she goes. Katerina's on Katie's bike. Look at that. Wow. Yay. For anybody who believes this is contrails. Anybody who believes this is contrails is pretty freaking stupid and doesn't understand the physics. Because you know what, Katerina? If that's contrails, then contrails is the same effective in the middle of the winter when you could see your breath. It's the exact same effect, but on a grander scale. So that means in the winter, when that contrast happens with my breath smoke should start getting wider and thicker and spread out and engulf the entire neighborhood. People should be like getting into car accidents because I was breathing too heavy and like have lawsuits against me and taking me to court for damages. You know what I mean? I should be getting like sued left and right for like breathing during the winter if that's the effect that has, because the contrail effect and being able to see your breath in the middle of winter is the same thing. So, like, it should be, like, supernatural, like, creepy, like some bad horror movie, like the evil fog or something coming out of my mouth and continuing to just expand and spread and engulf the entire neighborhood. Because that's what the F that crap is up there. Anybody who believes that is contrails is an effing idiot. Have you seen all this? We're getting some good footage for the next Paradigm Shift documentary here. Tic-tac-toe all over the place, artificial overcast.
Dropping aluminum fibers on us.
And barium and lots of other stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever little viruses, you know, H1N1.
Constipation tablets.
The police officer flu, swine flu.
Watch out, you're gonna get on the string and get... Katie, stop!
Wow, look at that.
The string's right behind you.
Look look at how all this is just spreading apart and making this artificial overcast.
And it'll cut into your fingers, let it go up.
And they're still dealing with their kite over here.
Pull, let it go up.
Yeah. Some people might be thinking, oh my god, it's chemtrails, you know.
Oh, here comes the constipation tablet, look out.
Yeah. Why aren't we going inside and running for cover? Oh, come on. This stuff goes over all the time. We live in Chicago. There's no way to freaking avoid it.
Just get on to Mr. Fletcher. Another question on the in an interview with the Los Angeles Times on April 21st, you said that you told the Associated Press that the American government has created weather tampering techniques so that the New World Order will be able to starve millions of Americans and to control the rest. Would you explain what you were trying to say?
Well, what I was trying to say is exactly what I said. There is weather control techniques. We have a complete package on that, which I did not bring, but I certainly will see to it that it is brought in for the record. Number one, the entire patents on the equipment. Number two, Senator Claiborne Pell's complete statement and story of his own that not only does it exist, but that we even utilize it as far back as the Vietnam War. You might want to touch base with Senator Pell.
I just want to repeat before I turn to...
So yes, but we do have all that information.
You're saying the government has created weather tampering techniques so that the, quote, New World Order will be able to starve millions of Americans...
Worldwide.
Millions of Americans, and to control the rest.
Yes, sir, and that's my belief. As bizarre as that sounds, if somebody had told me that that equipment even existed 10 years ago, I would have thought they were nuts, sir. And at this point in time, we have all the documents to prove it. And if you think that 85 tornadoes takes place in the middle of our growing area by simultaneous accident, I'm sorry. With the equipment that's already set up internationally, and as bizarre as that is, it is proven and documented. We will supply with those documents. As bizarre as that is, I would say that weather wars, and this is quoting actually Senator Claiborne Pell himself, that they are the greatest weapon ever created in the world, and that's the Senator's own statement. So yes, I do stand on that.
Thank you.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Weather weapons are the most dangerous weapons that they have, and they're using them in full force. I was going to try to do a streamline scene. I may hit the wrong scene. Let me just see if this is it. This may not be it, but we'll try it.
And high winds continued to batter California today. Power was knocked out in parts of Riverside County in Southern California.
All right, here we go.
We've had a lot of cases where we were seeding storms that had no business being seeded. We were just kind of throwing darts, and we were seeing responses to some of those. So we are learning that maybe there's more opportunity with some of these. Maybe we don't even need to have a rain cloud. We could go work cumulocongested clouds that aren't really precipitating yet. And if it has inflow, maybe we could get something to work. Year one, we had the air tractor that the USDA provided, so dosaging was a lot better. We were getting about 40 to 45 gallons per cloud. That aircraft wasn't available in year two, so we...
So there you go. Yeah, the other clip I started to play was, you know, they're cloud seeding in California all the time. They have ground-based cloud seeders going all the time. So to say they need a certain type of cloud is a complete lie. And also, to say that they can't get the moisture in there is complete BS. This is all an engineered drought. They drought out every country before every war or before the takeover. They drought them out to cause the chaos with the food. And then, you know, military comes in there or however they want to do it. But it happens almost the same way every single time. And like I said, there's a company right here in Australia that can steer the atmospheric river. We're going to have to play that clip real quick too.
We can bring in the oceanic rain, and we need to be conscious it's not about delivering rain on land, it's about nurturing a rain system that can promote agriculture and protect the people involved. So in all cases we want to make sure we don't get flooding, but we can deliver timely rain in a gentle soaking manner into agricultural targets.
Technology relies on a signal that we're able to generate that triggers a response from atmospheric patterns. So we're able to observe this using satellite meteorology, extensively available now to everyone who's got access to broadband internet. But we're able to utilize that signal sent in sequence to generate a incremental deviation in the flow path of these oceanic atmospheric rivers. So the source is the ocean, of course. The vapor, precipitable moisture flow is in the atmosphere. The winds drive this with the pressure systems adjusting the path of least resistance. But our technology is able to interface that and hack into it, if you like, and makes micro adjustments to allow deviations to occur in the flow pathways. And this is how we broke the drought in Australia in 2005. This is how we put out the fires of Victoria from Black Saturday in 2009. This is how we delivered rain in the desert in Saudi Arabia in 2007 and snow for the first time in history in 2004 in United Arab Emirates. There's been other projects above the radar and some under the radar, but today for the first time we're putting our hand up in front of the media to say this is available. We're going to run this project here to break the drought in the Horn of Africa. We're meeting with Cabinet, Federal Cabinet for Kenya and the Prime Minister and other parties and authorities in the region. We've met extensively with United Nations teams and agencies, and we're planning to do this in the most careful manner. Firstly, to bring some gentle rain in to give food for the food for the cattle and the livestock, so milk can be produced, so that human survivability can go up. Once that survivability's gone up, then we can look at more substantial rains that can be suitable for crop.
What is this technology? Essentially, we're drawing oceanic rain systems that exist over the oceans into geographic targets, into our agricultural areas. The technology uses electromagnetics, so we're not interfering with the atmosphere or with the environment. We're not damaging it. We're not using chemicals fired through rockets like other technologies use. We use a very gentle but powerful technology, launching electromagnetics into the atmosphere to modify the flow of the weather system over the ocean and drawing it into a target. So
the people are coming. You're fucked.
So when you look up into the sky and see a trail left by a plane that keeps expanding and hanging in the air for hours, and they tell you, there's nothing to be concerned about, remember, the government was caught spraying its own people at least once, the CIA admits to spraying, and your eyes can see that they're spraying. Your eyes don't lie, and the skies don't lie. So, what special design did old Poppy global warmonger H.W. Bush decide to wear for the rest of time in his casket? Here's a Twitter post by former George H.W. Bush spokesman Jim McGrath. The 41st president will be carried to his final rest wearing socks that pay tribute to his lifetime of service, starting as an 18-year-old naval aviator in war. What a great legacy. End on a note of war. Remember, to these skull and bonesman Masonic puppets, symbolism means everything. The pattern on his socks is an in-your-face glorification of the military-industrial complex and the horrors of mass murder, which they call war, as warplanes fly over, leaving their deadly chemtrails hanging in the air of a world filled with the humans he lived his life trying to destroy in his quest for one world order dominance. And these people are proud to shove that symbolism right in your face.
The people are coming. You're fucked.
The environment has taken one hell of a caning out of this, and it's all preventable. This is the tragedy of it all. It's all preventable.
You know, Brian, you were the first person who told me, and then I spoke to Vic Jerskus about it, and scientist David Packham. You were the first person who said to me, the intensity of these fires burns the humus content in the soil right down to the mineral layer, and you then told me that then it will rain because we have the flooding rains after the droughts, and that topsoil is washed away and floods into the creeks and clogs them up. It is absolute degradation, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's not going to change, I don't believe, until the general public say enough is enough, we want something better. And there's certainly, we've got the people with the knowledge to fix the system, but unfortunately they're not listened to by politicians. Now, the fires we face now are much more dangerous than they need to be and what they used to be. The intensity of the fires we're getting now is just enormous, and our workplace is becoming a very, very dangerous place to be. Yeah, and it all is preventable. That's the crazy thing. It's all preventable. Yeah. This fire's been building for the last 20 years. And we've been burning in New South Wales less than 1% of our bushfire-prone lands for the last 20 years. So that means every year the fuel loads just continue to build. And they continue to build until we get a disaster like this. And doesn't matter how many aeroplanes we have, how much manpower, how many trucks, we can't put these fires out. They're just beyond human capability to put out.
How long have you been fighting fires for, Brian? 52
years.
Has the situation got worse in the 52 years you've been fighting?
Yes. It definitely got worse. I mean, once upon a time, a lot of our areas that are now national parks used to be forested country, and the sawmillers had a sustainable industry, and they used to manage the bush. They used to do a lot of the hazard reduction burning, keep all the tracks open, and because they valued timber. Timber was important. Now we've closed the forestry industry down virtually. We've locked up the parks. We don't let people into them. We've closed all the trails off. And our timber just gets burnt and wasted, and meanwhile overseas they're cutting down rainforest to supply Australia with timber. I mean, how crazy is that?
And we're destroying not just the flora but also the fauna. And Brian, David Packham says it, Vic Jerskus says it, Roger Underwood says it from bushfirefront.org.au. The Aboriginal Australians burned all the time, cool burns. The animals had time to get away because you didn't have the build-up of those explosive eucalyptus leaves, the logs, the branches, the bark. You didn't get those big hot fires. So for a fire you need oxygen, you need hot weather, you need wind, and you need fuel. The one thing we can control, Brian, tell me, it's the fuel, isn't it?
Yep, and it's pretty simple to control it too. And just for all the people that are blaming climate change, if we could cool the world tomorrow, press a button, cool the world by 2 degrees, it would make virtually no difference to the outcome of these fires. What is making the difference is the fuel loads. And just to give you an example of that, if you compare the intensity of a fire in 15-year-old fuels, say, compared to 4-year-old fuels, the intensity of the fire, given the same conditions in the 15-year-old fuels, will be approximately 17 times hotter than what the fire would be in the 4-year-old fuels. So that's why we can't control them. At the rate we're doing hazard reduction burning, it will take us more than 100 years to treat the bushfire-prone lands in this state once.
Do you hear that, folks? It'll take 100 years to treat the bushfire-prone land in this country once, all due to government negligence. And the thing is, a lot of these people still believe that these fires are the result of the drought, and they believe the drought is natural. And yeah, folks, the fires may well be the result of the drought, but the drought is not natural. The drought is a direct result of government corruption.
Floodplain harvesting means where there was floodplains, they kill all the trees, level it off, and they put a big embankment to stop the water actually getting into the river. And they call that harvesting.
Oh no! No.
Government authorities, whose job it is to manage our water, are wasting millions and millions of litres of it, deliberately. On the Upper Murray River, water that could save farmers is spilling over the banks. Enough to fill 2 Sydney harbours was lost last year alone. It's a national scandal unfolding in secret. But while farmers are being sold down the river by the bureaucrats, not everyone's losing. Corporate speculators trading in water are swimming in profits. In August last year, the gates opened on dams along the Upper Murray River. They wouldn't close for 141 days. It let loose a man-made flood.
16,000 megs a day spilling through the Yarrawonga Weir in this, one of the greatest droughts we've ever seen.
It's scarcely believable, but while much of Australia was gripped by one of our worst droughts in history, the people who manage our most precious resource were wasting it in truly epic proportions. Millions of litres of water flooding a protected national forest, while a dairy industry dies in the heat.
We're in a man-made drought. Our water is flowing past us every single day and we can't touch it.
All caused by speculators and bureaucrats cutting deals to sell water to the highest bidder. And damn the consequences.
Water flows to money. To ordinary Australians, it's a tragedy. It's horrifying.
You from the media, tell the Prime Minister to go and get from Nelligan. We really enjoy doing this, head. Thank you very much. I've lost 7 houses already in Nelligan. I'm not going to lose any more, you head.
Stand down now. You don't deserve to govern. You knew this was coming. It's been coming for a few years. You've been totally ignorant of it. And now we're wearing your problems.
Tell the PM to come and meet me. Paul Parker from Nelligan. Meet you any day, pal.
People are pissed off, folks, and it's no surprise because this whole thing has been done by design. You know, these politicians have stolen our water. They pretended they can sell it to other countries, and it's all against the law. It doesn't matter what they write on paper, claiming that it's legal for them to do this. The fact is that they're full of shit. None of this is legal, folks. The Constitution says there shall be no trade on water. There shall be no trade or tariff on the responsible use of water, and there shall be no restriction on the responsible use of water. This is not responsible use of water. This is criminal, and the dams out there at Cubby Farm and these other places that are withholding this water need to be broken down immediately, and this water needs to be released to the people, irrespective of what anybody wrote on paper.
It stops the river. Yep, there. See there? Yeah. That's where they put an earth bank across it. So it stops it there, banks it up, fills up that big channel, and then goes down there.
And the scariest thing is it's completely legal.
Yeah. G'day everyone, Jeremy Buckingham here. I'm with Farmer Kate McBride. We're flying over Cubby Station in Western Queensland, and it's absolutely vast. A huge irrigation enterprise out here. In wet years they'd be growing cotton, but it is absolutely monumental. in its scale. What's your reaction to it been, Kate?
Well, you hear so much about Cubby, and it is just absolutely massive. I mean, we hear how big it is, but to actually see it with your own eyes is just, it's heartbreaking to see that this water should be going down the Darling, and it's affecting the amount of floods that we get. It's filling our floodplains down where we are, and it's all for corporate mega farms like Cubby.
All the way down there. It's 75 k's. It's just enormous. See it? There's the irrigation channel down there, down there, down there, down there. All the way. Like,
it's disgusting.
Yeah, it's an inland sea. We're 3,000 feet above Cubby Station, and it's taking us 20 minutes to fly the length of it. The enterprise is so huge, it can actually harvest the water from 2 river systems, the Ballon and Colgoa. That's what it's doing. It's stopping the Murray-Darling Basin, the heart of the Murray-Darling Basin, reaching the lower Darling, and it's a real catastrophe.
We have seen a huge amount of cotton being grown already over places that we've flown. The myth that they're trying to spin, saying there's no cotton being grown up here, it is being grown. It's not right. We need embargoes to be put in place because that water needs to flow down the Darling River. I mean, Tilpa is dry, the Menindee lakes are almost empty, and the lower Darling is seeing huge fish kills. We need to put an end to this. We are in a drought. Up here is in a drought. We need to save that water for the communities and the animals and everything else that rely upon it lower down.
Well, Kate's exactly right. The cotton industry are telling everyone there's no cotton being grown. Well, we've seen it at Gundawindi. We've seen it at St George. Big cotton crops. Irrigation storage is full. We've seen it with our own eyes. The truth is, the cotton is sucking the heart out of the Murray-Darling Basin and adding to the catastrophe that we're seeing all the way down to South Australia, and especially in the lower Darling and the Menindee. It's a debacle, and we've got to take responsibility for it.
The hose is burnt. The hose is burnt.
They've sold this country out, folks. They've sold this country and its people down the river. They don't care who suffers as long as they get their control grid, as long as they get their high-speed rail, as long as they get their smart cities put in place, just to keep us all safe. Keep us all safe, but at what cost? You know, the damage that has been done to this country and to the wildlife of this country is absolutely unforgivable. And again, folks, the most important thing to understand about this whole situation we are facing here is that this has been done deliberately. Half a billion animals killed, folks. 500 million animals killed. Whole communities without water, the entire place in a state of mass exodus. The military has been brought in to help a lot of people in a lot of areas, but no attention has been directed towards fighting the fires by the military. All attention has been focused on relocating people. Even the Premier of New South Wales says how happy she is that people are being relocated so easily. They're not making a fuss, they're just leaving. And she states that her main focus is on saving lives. Not on fighting the fires, but on saving lives. And if you really wanted to save lives, I would suggest you never would have allowed the water harvesting and floodplain harvesting and all of the things that you've done up to this point to create the perfect firestorm that we now face. But one thing we need to do, folks, is rally the people of this country to realise what's happening and to realise that this situation has been created by design. And we need to take whatever steps we need to take in order to dismiss this government and hold these criminals accountable for their actions. It doesn't matter what they've written on paper. It doesn't matter who they've sold the water to. It's just one big con, because this whole government is one big con. You know, this water selling, this water harvesting is completely unlawful. It's completely against the Constitution, and no one owns water. It doesn't matter what they write on paper. If you legislate that you have the right to own water, then you are legislating that you have the right to determine the life of others. You have the right to control the life of others, because water is the stuff of life. No one controls water, folks. Only God controls water. And anybody who thinks they can control water needs to be removed, needs to be charged with treason, and needs to be gotten out of the picture as quickly as possible. And that's what needs to happen in this country, folks. We have to rise up. Now's the time to do it. And if this doesn't cause people to want to take this country back, then I don't know what will. But all these dams out there that are holding the water back at Cubby Farms, all the floodplain harvesting, all this stuff that's going on, you need to go and break these dams down. If you live near these waters, you need to go and release these waters back into the river system. And know that the people of Australia stand by you in doing so, because this is our water. It doesn't matter if they claim it's somebody else's. They're full of shit. It's not anybody's. It belongs to the earth. It belongs to the people, irrespective of what politicians have written on paper. So people who have the ability to release this water need to release this water, and we need to shut down these cotton farms right now. It's not a question of when, it's not a question of if, it's a matter of now. It needs to be done. We can't tolerate this situation any longer, and if we do, it's going to mean the end of this country. So it's time for the people to rise up. It's time for the people to take this country back and dismiss this government, as I said, by whatever means possible. If you're someone out there who believes in the monarchy, great. Go and petition the Queen and ask her to intervene. If you're someone out there who believes in the Constitution, great. Go and get all the Constitutionists and get them to stand up for our Constitution. If you're someone who doesn't believe in any of it, you simply believe in freedom, great. Unite with the people who believe in those other two causes, and let's all move together as one to dismiss and dissolve this government and replace them with people of integrity. And if you're listening to this, if you happen to be Scott Morrison, I charge you with treason. I charge every politician in this country who believes they can own water, and any politician who has ever sold water to foreign interests, I charge you all with treason. Right now, you've been charged, and the Australian people need to rally up and push this charge against you, and we need to have these people removed, and we need to have this water returned to the places that it should be in.
Sydney's biggest water supply choked by smoke. Every corner of the Warragamba Dam under threat as fire takes over the Blue Mountains.
Further west in the tiny town of Tottenham, a dust twister. The elements out of control, a heat map painting a concerning picture for Australia and the state.
Australia is under a state of emergency as hundreds of wildfires burn across the country right now. Those fires have ripped through towns and destroyed dozens of homes, and of course this is just before Christmas.
Brace for catastrophic conditions as an extreme heat wave hits Sydney. Temperatures will climb well into the 40s in the coming days, peaking on New Year's Eve and making conditions even worse on our fire grounds.
As a meteorologist and someone who's studied this my whole life, I couldn't have even believed that could have happened. To give you an idea, they're saying that even right now, this is likely a 1 in 1,000 year event. To give you an idea of how unprecedented this is.
The fires now in Australia are covering an area around about 5 million hectares burned. That's around about 12.5 million acres. To put that in comparison, that is about the size, or it's a greater area than the country of Wales. It's about the size of Belgium and Luxembourg combined, almost as big as the country of Ireland. Coming with the fires is a smoke plume which is leaving this country and taking out across the world, hitting New Zealand very drastically. That smoke plume is estimated to be something in the vicinity of 5.5 million square kilometres. That's around about 2.1 million square miles. As I said, folks, the situation here in Australia is quite literally unprecedented. When you look at the news reports, they will tell you that Australia teeters on the brink of a humanitarian crisis. I would suggest no, folks, it is in the midst of an unfolding humanitarian crisis as we speak. If you just have a look at some of these news reports, I'll just go through some of them. And the situation here is quite literally unprecedented, ladies and gentlemen. The size and scope of these fires and the inability of people to be able to deal with them is like nothing we've ever seen. And the efforts that government is making is truly ridiculous. You know, they're really not putting enough effort into it at all. As you can see here, that's the bushfire map, and we're told that it's a potential, it's on the brink of a humanitarian crisis. Folks, it's already a humanitarian crisis. We've got fires all around the country, fires now in Western Australia as well, and some of the reports are just, you know, outrageous. It happens so fast. We put the children, put everybody in the water as the bushfire was coming. This happened in a lot of places, Conjola Creek. It also happened at Malakuta. Bateman's Bay, the same thing. We saw whole towns devastated, ladies and gentlemen. Here is an interesting report. You know, 4,000 people trapped on the town's waterfront, and this is at Malakuta. It says it down here. Yeah, Malakuta, there are around 4,000 residents fled towards the waterside, so they're trapped on the beach. And here we have the Defence Force set to rescue 500 people in Malakuta. That's comforting for them, isn't it? And here we have reports that at least 17 people are missing. I think that number is set to rise dramatically, ladies and gentlemen. And as I said, you know, they're saying that this is a crisis that is on the brink of happening. Here we have the fires are like nothing we've ever seen, 5 million hectares, and it has basically, as I said, folks, we've not seen anything like this. Basically, in the history of the world, there have not been any fires like this. You can look at the live map of the fires. I'll put a link below so you can see just how much it is devastating the country. These maps are updated every 10 minutes. You can see here the size of the fires that are surrounding Sydney. And again, no rainfall. An interesting thing as well that's happening with that, the lack of rainfall. As I mentioned to you before, the amount of Doppler radar stations around the Earth and the concept that these things are controlling the weather and pushing the clouds away. If you have a look at this radar image, very predictable, folks. We see rain out to sea here, quite heavy patches of rain, but it all stops in a nice round circle around the Doppler radar. That's the way it goes, folks. They're controlling the weather. As I said, this is reaching New Zealand as well. This is what the glaciers are looking like in New Zealand because of the smoke plume coming from Australia. It's doing a lot of damage already to other countries, and you know, it's our fires here. And it's just devastating, folks. There's plenty of pictures to show you the extent of the devastation. You just got to look on Google Images. They're all over the place. It's really like nothing we've ever seen before. So big that we're told it's even generating its own weather systems, if such a thing is even possible. Pyrocumulonimbus clouds, we're told, are being formed. I can understand pyro clouds being formed. How they could produce rain, to me, seems a little avant-garde, but hey, that's what we're being told. You can believe it if you want to, folks, but that just shows the extent of the situation here in Australia. And as I said, the smoke plume that's leaving is absolutely outrageous. The smoke plume is actually wider than Europe, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll just show you this video here so you can check it out for yourself. As you can see there, that is the size of the smoke plume. There it is in comparison to the size of Europe. There it is in comparison to the size of the United States. There it is in comparison to the size of South America. This is a pretty large smoke plume, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the reason this is happening, you know, I showed you on a video last week or a couple of weeks ago. I've done a couple of videos in the last week. I'll just run through this here so you can see it. I showed you on that video the floodplain harvesting that is going on. Sorry about this. This is just what I deal with here with buffering, ladies and gentlemen. I can set the videos up to play, but I still get this buffering problem. The floodplain harvesting that's happening and the private dams that have been built, this is one of the main problems that we've got here. This is why the country is so dry. I mean, if you look at some of the news reports that I just went through, and I'll put the links to those reports below so you can look at them for yourself. They talk about the water shortage and the crisis, how there's this major water crisis in Australia. And really, it's because of this. It's because of the floodplain harvesting, and it's because of the private dams that have been built. These dams that I talked about on the last couple of reports that I've done. Again, you'll find the links below. Now, all of this sort of stuff is what has contributed to this situation, folks. And if you want to know how they've gotten away with doing this and how they've gotten away with selling off our water, I just want to show you this report here that was put out by our friends on the channel, Liability Mate. They really do good work, folks. And if you haven't subscribed to that channel yet, I highly recommend that you do if you're an Australian, because they are keeping us informed about what's going on the ground here. But have a listen to this report coming from Liability Mate, and it's referring to an interview that was conducted by Alan Jones. Have a listen to this. This is how they've managed to sell our water, folks, and tell me what you think about this. This is Australian politicians for you.
That you asked the Premier of New South Wales in Parliament this week, last week, Gladys Berejiklian, whether parliamentarians shouldn't have to disclose their water ownership. And you asked, basically, the Premier, given the New South Wales water crisis, your words, and current investigations into water trading and water corruption, will the Premier explain why state members of Parliament don't have to declare their water ownership before?
Water ownership. Members of Parliament don't have to declare their water ownership. How are members of Parliament even in a position where they are owning water? Think about that, folks. But I'll continue.
Before you ask that question, coming to Peter, likewise, there are federal parliamentarians, I'm told, who own water.
And it wouldn't be specific on their disclosures that they would have to own up to a water right. I have to say, I have concerns that some recently departed federal MPs, and probably some still in the Parliament, own water.
And that's your concern, Helen?
Absolutely.
Because you were up front, you say I own water.
That's right, I did. And when I saw the form to fill in, when I joined Parliament, I just thought, there was no obligation to actually disclose my water interests at all.
And the Premier didn't answer your question?
No, she said that, well, basically she said that we should trust politicians.
Yes, you said the water market, you've said, is an unregulated disgrace. We know there are people who have an interest in keeping water scarce and prices high. They're making millions off the misery of drought-stricken farmers.
Absolutely.
I don't know, and Peter doesn't know, which of these politicians own water. Then you've got these private water holders, this Duxton Water, who own enough water to fill a Warrenora Dam.
That's right.
They don't own a tablecloth of land.
That's right. And, of course, all the foreign interests too. So we know a lot of that water is, a lot of land and water is owned by foreign entities, corporations, and that's a big concern.
You also raise this question of the manufacture of Bellamy's, being the sale of it being approved to a Chinese company. And you said this is a long sequence of events, the sale of important Australian assets to overseas investors. And you gave a speech on how government is, quote, making decisions about foreign purchases in secrecy. And you said the coalition in the last 30 years have successfully portrayed themselves as strong at protecting our borders, strong at putting Australian interests ahead of those of foreigners. But then you said this, but protecting our borders should be about more than just stopping sick refugee children from presenting at Australian hospitals. It means protecting Australian land, Australian jobs, Australian water, Australian farms, Australian heritage, and the Australian way of life. Absolutely. On that score, the coalition's failed.
Absolutely. So
how many people in the Parliament and the Chamber when you made the speech?
Probably about 3 or 4.
And no reaction?
No, well, I think that, you know...
But in the electorate, what's the reaction?
A lot. Absolutely. So we put it up on the Facebook and people are tuning in on it, and it's been shared, I don't know how many times, but it's certainly resonating within the community and also outside of the electorate of Murray too. I get a lot of people coming in and commenting about what's happening. People are fed up, absolutely, and we're in a lot of trouble.
Talking about...
We're in a lot of trouble, as she said. We are in a lot of trouble. This is treason, ladies and gentlemen, what these politicians have done. And it isn't just treason against the people of Australia, it's treason against Australia itself. Because these fires have changed Australia. You know, these fires, as I said, this is unprecedented, ladies and gentlemen. You know, these fires spell, and it's hard to say, but these fires spell the end of Australia as we know it. You know, and that may seem like, you know, a radical thing to say. You may think I'm exaggerating or something like that. But look at the devastation to the forests, ladies and gentlemen. We've got something like, the estimates at the moment are 500 million animals have been killed and burned in these fires. Koalas, kangaroos, lizards, just wildlife in general. And it isn't just the animals that have died. The problem is the forests have died because all the insects, all the ants, all the microbes, all the centipedes, all the funguses, all the stuff that keeps the forest alive in the undergrowth, in the mulch, on the ground, on the forest floor, all the stuff that creates the soil, all this is gone. You know, Australia is not going to return to what it was after these fires. And these fires have been deliberately set up. You know, this has been the creation of a perfect firestorm. Everything you could possibly do has been done to create the perfect firestorm in Australia. You know, they've blocked off all our water. They've effectively dried the country out. They've caused so much water mining that the aquifers have ceased to flow on the East Coast. If you look at the reports that I've done previously, the last 3 reports, I've shown you very clearly that they've been spraying this country with accelerants, mainly aluminium, barium and strontium, which combined is essentially sparkler dust, and that's why the fires are so outrageous. They've set it up to be a perfect storm, and they're just not doing anything about it. You know, the amount of aid that we're getting for these fires it's just not coming. The government isn't really doing anything about it at all. They're pretending that they are. Sending one ship down to Bateman's Bay, sending one ship down to Melaleuca or Malakuta, you know, whatever they're doing. I mean, this is too little too late. There's plenty of things they could be doing, but they're just not doing any of them. And as I said, folks, you know, what we're seeing here, we're going to see, you know, like 500 million animals have perished in these fires already. You know, it's not just the people that are suffering. There's so much suffering happening in these fires, ladies and gentlemen, and it's only just begun because summer has only just started. Have a look at this video of this fire truck as well. It's a very interesting video. There's a point in this video where there's an explosion that goes off halfway through the journey. This is 1 minute long. I'm going to show you the whole video. There's a fire truck escaping from the flames. But check this out. And around about, I think, 28 seconds into the video, there's an explosion that goes off in the forest. I mean, I'm open to it perhaps being a ball of sap or a tree trunk exploding, but it's quite a bright white explosion, and I think it's quite interesting. So let's see what you think about this. But this also shows you what the firemen are dealing with these fires, folks. This is like driving to the gates of hell. Check this out.
Watch 38 coming down here. Fires on the road already.
Watch this. And then the fire just takes off. You see that? Play that for you again. We watch the fire spread now. Look at this. Look at that.
Jasper?
What was that, folks?
Jasper, put the blanket up.
It was a very interesting sort of an explosion, and how the fire spread so quickly after that explosion. What do you think might have caused that, ladies and gentlemen? Is that a natural thing that you would normally see in a forest fire? I mean, I don't know. I've never been in a situation like that to be able to answer that question myself, but it seems highly suspect to me. And look at this, folks. If you think the government is actually doing a lot to save the fires and prevent these fires from happening, have a look at this. There's these super scooper aircraft that are all sitting in mothballs overseas. These craft can scoop up water from the lakes, from the ocean, dump it on the fires. Why isn't the government putting this in use? But no, they're just sitting in mothballs while the country burns. And of course, this is what they're blaming it all on, folks. As I mentioned to you, they're going to blame all this on climate change. Australia's angry summer, this is what climate change looks like. As I said to you, they intend to genocide this country, and they've already done a pretty good job, and fire season, summer, has just started. You notice how they've been calling summer fire season for the last few years here in Australia as well, kind of hyping people up, getting them ready for this type of event to happen, getting it in their minds that summer is fire season. But, you know, fires raging across Australia, more than 5 million hectares. You know, the catastrophic fire season in California saw nearly 740,000 hectares burned. Australia's fire season began this year in late August. Fires have so far claimed 9 lives, blah, blah, blah. Destroyed 1,000 homes. It suggested around 500 million animals have also died, including 30% of the koala population. I would suggest it's actually a lot more than that, folks. Australia's climate has warmed, so they're really pushing the whole climate change thing, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, have a look at this. Hundreds of bushfire victims to get no compensation after their homes are razed to the ground, leaving them to facing a life of destitution. You know why this is, folks? Do you know why? Experts say thousands of New South Wales residents do not insure their homes because state government taxes make it too expensive. And think about this. Why would it be, folks? New South Wales and Tasmania are the only jurisdictions in the country where emergency services are funded by tax on insurance companies. Think about that one. Your insurance is so high in these states because the insurance companies are taxed in order to support the emergency services. So if people aren't insuring their homes, then you don't have funding for emergency services. And, you know, so they've got to put the prices up so less people want to get insurance, and so emergency services get thrown on the back burner. You think that isn't done by design, folks? I mean, they could put the money that they used on the Sydney fireworks display towards funding emergency services, and they would do better than putting a tax on the insurance companies. But if you think that isn't done by design, folks, I mean, that just speaks volumes to me.
So if for any of you that still doubt the weather's being modified on a grand scale on a regular basis all over the world, just go to this website called weathermodification.com. Weather Modification Inc. We see potential. When most people look up, they see clouds. No, I see you geoengineering, spraying us like bugs and ruining the future for all life is what I see, you scumbags that are knowingly doing this. They're out of North Dakota here. And if you take on their clients and projects list, it's no small group that they're doing this through. Look at all the countries from A to Z where they have precipitation, meteorological, spraying, geoengineered weather that they're conducting. And look at the United States. Look at all the areas: Nevada, Edwards Space, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Santa Barbara, Sonoma Technology Inc. Do you think you guys had a hand in the directed energy weapons attacks? Well, maybe we should go visit you and find out for ourselves. All of you that work for these companies and are staying silent and allowing this to happen, shame. Shame on you all. But here's the evidence, folks. You can't, they use the weather to steer it with the NEXRAD radar systems. They call it NOAA for a reason. National Oceanic Administration, NOAA, get it, the floods, They play games with us. And they have the radar systems, they have the aircraft, they have the hidden technology. Oh, built for success. No, built for aerosol spraying us like freaking bugs. And they also have VIP transports, photographic equipment. This is all being funded by the government. That's acknowledging and helping and providing for the money for them to spray us like bugs and to manipulate the weather at will and to create the directed energy attacks. These are the companies that are involved with it all.
The people are coming. You're fucked.
And again, they've been modifying the weather for a very long time. This was a post from a lady who I used her information and I posted it. And she filed a copyright strike against me, calling me a parasite for trying to get the information out to share that the weather's being modified from her work. Don't understand it, don't get it. Further proof is evident. Weather modifications have been going on for a very, very long time, and it's being intensified. More from Intel said technology doubles every year. What do you think the weather modification abilities are when they can modify the weather with the technology, with the D-Wave computers, with the NEXRAD systems, with the wet surface air coolers, with the Silver Lining Project? Yeah, it's a big, big business when they have weather derivatives markets. And this is the Silver Lining Project. They park out in the oceans and they use the ocean water, as you heard him testify, using the ocean's water to create the water vapors, and then use the barium and the aluminum particles to steer the weather and create the rain if they want, or the drought if they want. This is all part of the Bill Gates from hell funding to spray us like bugs, to control the weather and manipulate at will for their agenda. Can you remain silent while all this is happening? Here's a piece I did on the Silver Lining Project with the former Weather Wars. Don't know what happened to him. But this explains it a little further about the Silver Lining Project and how it operates off the West Coast back in 2017.
3 to 5 inches, guys, in such a short period of time, there is going to be more flooding and much more damage.
As always, the simple and logical question is, how can this be? How can so much rain fall in such a short amount of time? Longtime Weather War 101 viewers already know the answer to that question.
The people are coming. You're fucked.
Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as geoengineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection.
The people are coming. You're fucked.
Microphones up there. We got microphones there, so you can just shout whatever the fuck you want to say. Fuck you. You can shout fuck you. If you want to eat shit, you say eat shit. If you want to say I'm a sick motherfucker, say I'm a sick motherfucker. Say I'm a sick motherfucker. 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 Motherfucker.
You're fucked. The people are coming. You're fucked.
Geoengineering.
The people are coming.
Stratospheric aerosol injection.
The people are coming. You're fucked. You're fucked. You're fucked. The people are coming. The people are coming. You're fucked. You're fucked. You're fucked. The people are coming.
Let me say, we can't simply destroy everything which a totalitarian government uses.
Order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
Let me say, we can't simply destroy everything which a totalitarian government uses.
Order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
The people are coming. You're fucked. 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 The people are coming. The people are coming. The people are coming. The people are coming.
Let me say, we can't simply destroy everything which a totalitarian government uses.
Order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
You're fucked. You're fucked. You're fucked. You're fucked. The people are coming. The people are coming. You're fucked. The people are coming. You're fucked.